Unit not cooling. Chasing power, part 2. Today is Wednesday. I was here Monday. This unit blew a fuse. Line 3. I haven't opened this up yet today, but there's a story. Now this blew a fuse, line 3, and you can actually see it's overheated. Yeah, so line 3 was blown. Tripped the 50 amp breaker downstairs, so killed this, turned it on downstairs, checked for shorts to ground, didn't find anything, went motor by motor, didn't find anything, fired it up, unit ran. I pulled amp draws on everything, so I hate just chalking it up to like, oh, I don't know. So, I mean, instead of throwing a fuse in and leaving, I spent an hour pulling amp draws, checking voltage, making sure there was nothing indicating why the fuse blew to begin with. And I came up with nothing. Other than we had lots of storms the night before. So we chalked it up to environmental because there was no mechanical reason for that to happen. So they called me a little bit ago and said it was 80 degrees in the kitchen. The owner was here. He asked what he could do. I was on a conference call. It was a text conversation. And I told him he could check the breaker and see if it was tripped. But turning it back on was not going to solve the problem and to let me know. Well, I was not crystal clear enough. That breaker got turned on, which means I'm going to guess when I check that fuse 3 is blown again based on how discolored it is, and it's 2 days old. Everything's single phased until smoke started pouring into the kitchen. So the smoke, I've already undone this. The smoke that started pouring into the kitchen, you can see. The fact that it came into the kitchen, I knew that he had smoked his blower motor, because that's the only thing that has access to the kitchen. He could have smoked these, but they still spin. I'm gonna ohm everything out, make sure we're good. Parts house was, don't have it. Gonna be some time before I can get it. Fortunately, I've got friends with graveyards galore. I don't have a motor this big. These 10-ton units, I thought it was an 11, it's a 10. These 10-ton units have a really funky bracket that even if you mount I've got a 6-ton motor from my graveyard I picked up on the way here, which I knew it wouldn't be enough horsepower, but I figure it's better than nothing. We may resort to it, but even if I bring it up, I'm not going to be able to mount it right. It's going to be real funny. So, yeah, man. When a big breaker trips, can't just reset it all the time. So, terrible. It's created quite the thing. So I'm waiting on a call back to find out if there's any hope on this motor getting it replaced, or if we got to get creative with a smaller motor, which is still likely probably just going to burn out. But kitchen AC, these stores have 2 units, one in the dining room, one in the kitchen. So this is exactly what I talk about not having redundancy. You lose 1 unit right now with parts problems we have, you could be in a world of hurting right now. So, hang on. All right. Hoping we can do this before we get wet. This actual motor, nowhere in town. I'm in the North Georgia, Atlanta metro area. Nowhere. Got to bring it from elsewhere in the country. Also the price tag. Ouch. I've got this numerically the same motor. It's got a little bit shorter of a shaft, but I think we can make it work, because I think we're gonna have to adjust this in, but it's got the right foot, which is my problem with any of the other motors I can get. So this is just a loaner. This is a used motor. We save, when we retire units, we save these parts for this reason. In a pinch, it'll get you through. I tested, I didn't video it earlier because I knew I had to run and get that. So what we did, you've got fuses in here. There were 3 fuses. The yellow wire fuse was blown, which makes sense because the yellow wire was melting down. Well, I mean, they were all melting down, but the yellow wire was catching the brunt of it. So that fuse blew. So I've got more of those. I pulled all 3 of those fuses out because I wanted to disconnect the motor and not have to worry about this being hot. So those are the 2 good fuses. I pulled all those fuses out. I ohmed out all of these just with my stupid meter, my regular meter, and everything ohmed out good. I want to say these were like 4.2 ohms across all of them, good. Same with that, and those ohmed out well. Nothing shorted the ground, so with that isolated, I had him turn the breaker on downstairs. This was off. I turned it on, both my compressors started, both my fans started. The common concept here is that motor is what was what was blowing my fuse before, which is what caused the single phasing, which is what started taking everything down. Because it melted down first, that's the most likely culprit. When I ran down to get that motor from my sensei, he gave me his mega ohm meter. So we're gonna get to this shortly, but I wanna go ahead and get this motor put in because at a minimum, I wanna have that part done. So let me get this pulled out, the next one put in. Also, like a little hack I use is on these clips, I cut them because they're always like this. I cut them like that, and then I just push the rest through because now I've actually still got the OEM clip I can reuse to feed my wires through and not have to redo anything. So we get this out of here, get the new one in, see how she rolls, and then we'll video mega ohming everything. Just to be sure, one of these motors or the compressor isn't what was blowing my fuse. The mega ohm is going to show us if there's internal winding problems that are obviously intermittent, because this thing ran for a day and a half, no problems, and the entire 2 hours I was here the other night, or hour and a half I was here the other night. So, moving on. All right, so very archaically, this is just bolted in. We haven't done anything with anything yet. But look down the pulley. See how it's misaligned? See how it runs off to the left? I can't adjust this out anymore, but I can adjust this in. So we're gonna get a straight edge. We're gonna put it on the edge of the belt here and there. Loosen that, slide it all in till we're in alignment. Then we'll fire it up, make sure it works. I've heard tales that if you leave this loose and fire up the unit, since this is fixed, it will pull this into alignment. No. I mean, it might. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to risk it flying off of there or something more stupider. No. We're just going to line it up like that. Torque her down. My key does go all the way through. You got to make sure when you do this that your key, you didn't move off your key, so that when I tightened that down, I still hit the key again. But all right, let's get our wires secured. We're gonna adjust this down so we get some belt tension. See how she rolls. All right, we're gonna take you on the maiden voyage. Fuse is back in. This is temporarily wired. I cut the pigtails off of that because the factory has pigtails to bypass this, which is bypassed. When I get my new motor, it's OEM, it's going to have these pigtails on it. So if I cut these off now, I wouldn't have them next time. So, got the lever nuts. Love the lever nuts. I just need to see if it, well, one, if it starts when I bump it. And second, look at the blower wheel. It needs to be turning that way. Still got the compressors unhooked. 3, 2, 1, don't blow up. Let's see. Okay, she started. She is spinning the correct rotation. All right, so now let me get the wires secured. I wrap these up with electrical tape when I'm done. They tell you, the manufacturer tells you that you shouldn't use stranded wire, that it's just for single wire. And the reason is, I actually saw one, is when I thought to make a video of it. Yeah, look. So if you look at this, there's a tiny little strand. I won't focus. See it? There's a single little strand that didn't get put in the lever. Right there. Right there. And so that is a potential hazard. So I wrap them up. I also wrap them up with electrical tape just to put this together, so there's never an issue where they get pulled and it separates. So let me get the wiring cleaned up. BRB. All right, so I've got her fired up. Total amp draw on the leg that keeps burning down. Although three-phase power can find whatever leg it wants. 28 amps, gets up to 29 amps sometimes. The breakdown was my blower fan was pulling about 4.5. It's rated up to 7. Each of these fans were pulling 0.75, give or take. One of these was pulling 12.5, the other was pulling 14. So, checks out. So that is a 60 amp fuse that it blew, and downstairs is a 50. The Mega Ohmer didn't scream that there was anything catastrophically wrong. One of these compressors read a little funny, actually, that there might be winding breakdowns, but I am not gonna lie. I do not use Mega Ohm meters, so perhaps I am misreading the results, but I'm going to consult those wiser than me. Yeah, this sucks. I was here 2 days ago for a blown fuse. Nothing was overamping. That motor was like 7.5, 8 amps, and I'm pretty sure it's rated for 9, if I remember right. Yeah, 9.2. It wasn't overamping, but nothing's overamping now. On paper, we are good to go. And that's where we were 2 days ago as well, so I can't do much more than I've done. Mechanically, all of this equipment is drawing the amount of power it's supposed to. It's running. I'm gonna camp out. I'm gonna watch it a little longer. It has been already a day up here. Time I had to come, figure it out, go get the motor. But you gotta make sure she satisfies, restarts, no nonsense. Now let me clean up my junk. We'll do one more. All right, I wanted to be able to button it up and get cleaned up. It's been about 15 minutes. Nothing weird. Everything's running. 30 amps is fine. It's not odd for them to be slightly different, because their different legs of power are running different things. So the fan motors, the condenser fans aren't three-phase, they're single-phase. So you can actually tell that's the leg also running the condenser fans, because they're carrying the extra 1.5 amps from two 7.5 motors. The other ones are just carrying the three-phase loads. Well, don't love it. It's good. This is again, this is a temporary motor. That motor is out of a retired AC unit. I'm not selling it to them. I just installed it so they're not dead while I wait. It is Wednesday, that motor can be to me by Monday afternoon. So, unless you want a 90-degree kitchen, graveyard parts for the win, baby. Let's go home.